Hey YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Be the Hustler. In this episode, we're going to discuss business startup theory. I don't really know if that's a real thing or not. It probably is, but let's talk about it. Business startup theory and all the ideas and all the strategies that are going to go through your head in order to ultimately open up and run your business. Now, a lot of people have asked me, do I need a business plan? Do I actually need to set one up? Well, let me run back to my very first business, my trading card store. When I had my baseball card store, I was 16 years old. I didn't even know what a business plan was. And that business ended up panning out fine without the business plan. However, if I was to go back, I probably would have drawn one up. And here's why. When you put things down on paper, they actually tend to manifest. They actually remind you, hey, this needs to be done. Oh, we set this goal a year out, 2 years out, 5 years out, whatever. And you need to have those goals in order to hit those targets. Otherwise, you're just drifting. So I think it's important. There's a lot of things that get missed when you don't sit down and write up a business plan. And the internet's an easy place, a wonderful place. You can go to Google, you can Google sample business plans, and you'll see tons of templates and different websites where you can download a good template for a business plan, and you literally just start filling out all the fields. And a lot of times, like if somebody's wanting to review their business plan with me, most of the time, they've only done a fraction of what needs to be done in order to complete that business plan. There's so many things. So what I tell them is, so in your particular case, you're looking to say borrow money or get an SBA loan or something like that. And I'm using this as an example for say a friend. And he says, hey, I need $200,000 to start my business, or I need $300,000 to start my business. Well, if they don't have that money, whoever they're getting that money from is going to want to know their game plan, their business plan, right? So they're going to have to draw up all the information. And what I like to do is I tell them, turn the tables. Instead of you being the person that wants to set up this dream business that you've always wanted to have, put yourself in the seat of the investor and ask yourself, would you loan that guy money? Meaning, would you loan yourself money if you were the other person? If you're looking at what their business plan is. A lot of times what people forget is to put down all the numbers. The numbers mean everything. I'm talking about as simple as where you're going to get your products from, where you're going to source them from. What are your costs going to be? Your average cost. What's your percentage markup? What are your cost of goods versus what your actual sale prices are going to be? Is there enough margin? What kind of expenses are you going to have? Say, as an example, are you going to need to lease some space? You're going to have to rent out space for your business? If so, how much square footage are you going to need, right? If you don't need space, if you're working from home, do you need to buy a bunch of equipment from home just to run your business? These are a lot of the factors that you have to think about before getting into a business. So I'll say this. One of the biggest problems that I see people have when they're starting a business is they have it almost makes me cringe when I hear it. I have a great idea. When you hear the catch, I have a great idea, usually that means that they're just having an idea and they're not going to do anything about it. And that's my biggest pet peeve, is hearing all these friends and family members that have these great ideas and they do nothing about it. I mean, let's think in the past. What if Henry Ford had this great idea of developing this automobile? We call them cars. And he didn't do anything about it. Now, I'm not going to say that, maybe at some point cars wouldn't have gotten developed. They would have. Somebody else would have probably thought about it. But he certainly paved the way because he took action. And he created that assembly line, which was an incredible system, an incredible process of how to build a car piece by piece. Imagine, holy cow, if the Wright brothers weren't experimenting with flying airplanes, where would we be in today's technology with aircraft? And the list goes on. You can talk about Thomas Edison and the light bulb and the first cell phone and heck, the first microwave, right? The first calculator. These kind of things started out as an idea. And you have to remember that ideas are nothing unless you're going to execute that game plan. So just like when you have a vision board, you might have heard of a vision board, and I highly recommend creating a vision board, which is simply this. Go to your local Walmart or Target, get one of those white or one of the different colored poster boards they sell, yellow, red, green. I like to get white because it kind of pops better when you put the pictures on it. Get whatever color that you'd like to get. And then start putting on that vision board all the things in the world that you want to have, all the things you dream of. So that could be, let's say you're a woman and you're wanting to start this business and you're dreaming about your knight in shining armor. Put a vision, find a picture of what he would look like. Put that on your vision board. Put your business on your vision board. Drop the signage of what your signage is going to look in your retail store or what your facility, whatever you're going to develop, put that on your vision board. While you're at it, put your dream home on there. Put your dream cars, your boat, your airplane, whatever you want. Put that on your vision board. And the reason I say is this: when you're aiming at a target, you've got a shot at hitting the target because you know where you're aiming. But if I told you, hey, I want you to shoot a bow and arrow, just shoot it. You're going to say, well, what am I shooting at? Well, that's what it's like when you actually don't have a goal, when you don't have a target, when you don't have a vision. So when you create that vision board, think of it like each of those pictures of the things that you want out of life are your targets. I want to hit that target. I want that house. I want that car. I want that man or that woman. I want this in my life. I want a puppy. Everything you want on your vision board, put it on there. That's your target. That's what you're going after. And then the key is to execute. You have to execute and go after every single thing that you want to go after. So when I was setting up my last couple businesses, I'll run you through some of the business startup theory, as we call it, that went through. So it initially started with simply an idea. Hey, I want to get into the escape room business. I had done a couple escape rooms. If you haven't done them before, they're a blast. Basically, you, a group of friends or family, you go to an escape room, they lock you inside the room for 60 minutes, and then you have to escape. You have to break out. And the only way you can break out is by solving clues, puzzles, riddles, unlocking locks. It's so much fun. It's almost like a treasure hunt. And every single room I've ever done has a different theme. So no one room is the same. And it's a blast. If it's something you like to do on the weekends, I highly recommend doing it. I'm actually in that industry. Now, when we were talking about getting into the escape room business, holy cow, from start to finish, what a monumental task it was to finally get open. Just for starters, we had to even find out whether or not we had a location that would fit an escape room, the idea of it. You know, we needed 4,000 to 5,000 square feet. We were going to need different rooms broken up in different sizes, a control room, a lobby area, you know, a spot where they can, while the people are waiting, they could maybe play some board games or something like that. We had this vision, right? And then we had to actually go, after we found the space to put it in, then we had to go to the city. In my particular case, here in the greater Kansas City area, we were in a city called Overland Park. So we had to go to the city of Overland Park, and we had to get that approved. So we had to go to the planning and development, and we had to make sure that planning and development was okay with it. So this is the process that you're going through. And I'm specifically talking about, I call them brick and mortar businesses, because some of your businesses, some of your startups are going to start from home. You know, you might be one of those people that helps build funnels, or you help with social media and many other things that you can do remotely or from home. Some people do drop shipping. But my particular example is from my experience of setting up a brick and mortar business where people physically come to your location, and that's where you generate your revenue. So back to this situation, we had already found our space. Now we're at the mercy of the city, and you never know, potentially the state. But you start with the city. Are they even going to allow that? Maybe the use isn't allowed in your city. So this is something you have to go and sit down. You have to schedule an appointment, which is what I did. Maybe it took a week, and you have to explain to them what you're going to do. The first time I told them I was setting up an escape room, and I explained, hey, we're going to lock people in a room, they said, no way, Jose, not going to happen. You're not locking people in a room. What are they going to do? Maybe not break out and die? And I'm like, no, it's not like that. There's a chicken exit button. There's a push to exit button, and you can escape at any given time. If you have to go to the restroom, you know, you can go if you really got to go, and your time stops and we pause the game. But no, it's not like what you're thinking. It's similar to going to like Six Flags or one of your local theme parks, and right before you get on the roller coaster, you can just take the chicken exit, right? So after we get approved, the city says, well, we'll approve the use. We'll allow you to do it. However, that's contingent on us seeing architectural drawings. They want to actually see all the architectural drawings so that they can see, and they were asking us how many people can fit in a room. We got to make sure the occupancy is allowable with what you're trying to do. There's a lot of code that the city has to look through to make sure that your idea is even plausible. It might not even be allowable. So fortunately for us, it worked out well. Now, I had spent thousands of dollars with an architect just to draw up the architectural drawings so that I could submit them to the city. Let's say as an example, they weren't going to approve it. I was out thousands of dollars. I don't remember exactly what it was, but if I was to guess, $4,000 or $5,000 that I had spent. And mind you, we had already registered the business. We were already getting things in motion. There was time and energy being spent. We had already submitted our drawings for our signage to our sign company. And when I'm setting up a business, I do a lot of things in parallel. So I don't wait for one thing to be done and then proceed to the next thing. I'm doing 5 to 10 things at a time because each one of them has to grow, needs time to develop. You're waiting on callbacks, you're waiting on meetings and things like that. So while I'm working on setting up the architectural drawings to get approved through the planning commission with the city, I'm also trying to get my signage renderings approved through the city with a different department and all the other things that take place in setting up a business. So as you're going through your thoughts about what you want to do, you got to understand that there's a lot of steps that you're going to take in setting up your business. Then once we get past the hump and once they approved it and they said, okay, you're fine, you're ready to go. Well, look, we set up our LLC. We set up our EIN number, or also known as FEIN number, Federal Employment Identification Number. We set that up. Now, are you going to have employees? Yes or no? Because if you're going to have employees, now you have to set up your federal withholding, your state unemployment tax, your federal unemployment tax. There's all these different licenses. You're going to have to get your business license in most cities. And some particular cases, depending on what you're going to do, you might have to get a food license or liquor license or this license or precious metals license. There's always different trades and licenses for all the different things in different industries. This is all part of the process. Then after you set up, your taxes, now you got to call your insurance company. You got to let them know exactly what you're doing. And in most businesses, they're going to have you classified. So if you're a restaurant, they're going to say, well, what's your occupancy and what's your square footage? And, ask you a bunch of questions so they know how to rate you and what to charge you. It's based off of a lot of different factors. And then you can always add bells and whistles, like do you want earthquake insurance or tornado insurance, random occurrences and things like that. And watch out. This is something you have to be very careful about, but watch out for exclusions on your insurance policies because a lot of insurance companies will put in a laundry list of exclusions. As an example, one that's affecting almost every business in the United States is there actually in most commercial business insurance policies, there's an exclusion for bacteria and viruses. So during this COVID-19, this coronavirus pandemic, even though people, including myself, have filed business loss of income claims, most of these insurance companies are actually denying us. They're saying, hey, that was because of this virus and we don't cover it. Now, hopefully, the government is going to do something to step in and help out and say, hey, look, this was a government ordered lockdown. We shut down the economy. This was on us. Yes, it was due to a virus. However, this and that. So hopefully they're going to give us something to help out with the loss of income. We already know they're helping out with the SBA loans and doing forgiveness provisions, but heck, we were paying for insurance. We should have some kind of coverage, you would think, for that. So watch out for your exclusions and read through your policy. It's usually really thick. It could be 30, 40, 50 pages. Go through and see what your numbers are, what's covered, what's excluded, and things like that. So then just to kind of zip through a couple more, after that's done, you're going to set up all your utilities. Most utility companies are going to want your EIN number. They're going to want, who's the owner or whatever, put that in there. So for security reasons, if you call in, the average person can't mess with your utilities. They have to rattle off all that information. So protect it, obviously. You're going to set up your bank accounts. Your bank accounts, obviously, are going to need all your tax information as well. And you're going to need to fund it with money. So you're going to have enough cash flow that you budget. And there's a lot of questions. People say, well, how much do I need? Depends on the business, depends on how many employees, depends on your rent, depends on how long you think it's going to take to start generating revenue. So many factors come into play with discussing how much money you need for your bankroll. Another thing too is, as you're setting up all this stuff, I talked about paralleling. So make sure you have somebody that you trust, that you know is really good. Set up your website. Set up your social media. Maybe you're good enough to set up your own social media. I've set up a lot of social media for myself. If you don't have a website person, there's a lot of, kind of template-based website companies like Shopify that you could set up if you're selling goods and services and things like that. So you can get online and you can find those places. You're going to set up your phone number. All these things play into just initially setting up your business. So again, we were talking about business theory. So what I want you to make sure is, as you run down all these lists, you're thinking of all the things that I just said in this video. And in addition to that, remember, we're going to have to set up processes. And in most cases, we're going to have to hire staff. That's a whole nother can of worms. And that's definitely something we're going to have to home in on a future video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be the hustler.